Following a failed vote last week to provide free school lunches to low-income K-12 students, Republicans in North Dakota voted instead to increase their meal reimbursements. In March, the end of March, Republican-dominated Senate had rejected a House Bill 1491. So it actually lost by a single vote. So the legislation, which had previously passed the House, would have dedicated about $6 million over the next 2 school years to cover the cost for K-12 students with family incomes below double the federal poverty level. Children from families of 4 making less than $60,000 a year would have qualified, but now, well, now a federal program, to be fair, already provides free meals to students from families making below 130% of the federal poverty line. So the state allocation that was nixed by senators would have applied to kids with family incomes between 130 to 200% of the poverty level. So I guess if you're not super, super poor, but you're still kind of poor, well, you miss out. So, you know, if you're kind of poor, not good enough. You got to be poorer. Oh, okay, great. So now that bill, again, rejected. However, on April 6th, the Senate did pass Senate Bill 2124, which would raise the meal reimbursements received by state employees during travel within North Dakota. So now legislators are also considered to be state employees. And so lawmakers attending interim legislative meetings would be eligible for the payment reimbursements, but they do not receive meal reimbursements during biennial sessions. So now if Governor Doug Burgum signs the bill, state employees could collect up to $45 a day to pay for their meals. Oh, lovely, lovely. Now, that's actually a 29% increase from the current reimbursement rate of $35, which would cost up to around $1 million over the next 2 years. Now, look, obviously, expanding the K through 12 school lunches, that's going to cost a little bit more. Yeah, it's going to be $6 million over the next 2 years. So obviously, they took the cheaper option, which just happened to give them more food. No, nobody's going to buy that argument. Nonetheless, you had 13 Republican senators, including Majority Leader David Hogue and Assistant Majority Leader Jerry Klein, voting to increase meal reimbursements after voting against the free school lunch bill. In fact, I'm going to give you the names of the other Republican senators who voted for Senate Bill 2124 to raise their own meal reimbursements and against House Bill 1491. Randy Burkhardt, David Clemens, Bob Erbel, Judy Estenson, Kurt Kroon, Judy Lee, Randy Lem, Larry Lewick, John Schabel, Terry Wanzek, and Mike Wabama. Okay, so now, Hogue had declined to comment on the reason that he voted to increase his own reimbursements, but not to feed the hungry kids. Quote, I don't have a good answer for you as to why we do it sometimes and not others. Okay. Now, Klein said, hey, look, I don't think there's any sort of correlation whatsoever between these two bills. Really? There's no correlation. You're increasing your meal reimbursement, which means the state's going to pay for your meals. But you don't want the state to pay for kids' meals. I would say those are pretty related. Just saying. Now, he also noted state employees should get a higher per diem because inflation has made eating out more expensive. Hey, I got news for you. Stop eating out. Hey, why don't you practice some personal responsibility and stop getting those, those McDonald's shakes? Why don't you eat at home? Be a little bit more cheap instead of going out all the time. Personal responsibility. Now, look, that said, I understand state employees. He just happens to be a state employee. And so he's going to benefit from it. All these Republicans will benefit from it. And so if they go on trips, and that just, again, that's a nice little perk for them. But he says, no, there's no correlation here. Now, I want to direct you here to a video of Senator Mike Wabama, who, again, had voted to increase his meal reimbursements, but did not help feed the hungry kids. And he is going to tell you why.
We talk about personal responsibility as one of the major principles that the Republican Party stands on. Yes, I can understand kids going hungry, but is that really the problem of the school district? Is that the problem of the state of North Dakota? It's really the problem of parents being negligent with their kids if their kids are choosing to eat in the first place, which is entirely the problem that could be existing here. I don't believe that it is our responsibility to carry on a program in excess of what the federal government already does.
So, let me just get this straight. Feeding children in our state that are poor and hungry, not our responsibility. But feeding your Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel Sanders looking ass is? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Because that sounds like that's what you're saying. I mean, it shows from your actions. Or, by the way, why don't you get some goddamn personal responsibility and pay for your own meals then? How about that? Or how about you pay for your own health care? How about that? Oh, no, you don't want to. Oh, I know. No, you want us to feed poor kids? No, you should get some personal responsibility. Now give us some money so then I can go and reimburse myself for my meals. Look, this isn't the only example of hypocrisy, okay? It gets worse. Montana legislators, to go to another state here that's Republican-led, and then we'll come back to North Dakota. Earlier this year, they voted to raise their own per diem pay because of inflation. Oh, okay. So, it's the increased cost of living. We got to do something for ourselves. We got to pay ourselves more. Okay, but what about helping out kids who are poor? Well, okay, what about that? According to Montana Representative Kelly Cordum, tweeting that Republicans had twice voted down bills that would have paid for school lunches for hungry children. So now he also did the math on this one. So now it would cost the Montana taxpayer $350,000 a year to raise the per diem rate for Montana legislators. So they get paid more to deal with inflation, of course, right? For that increase. How much would it cost extra to feed the children? $300,000 a year. Oh. But we can do the more expensive thing that helps already wealthy off people, Montana legislators who make $142 a day. We can afford that. That's totally fine. But the kids, screw the kids. Look, this is the pattern. You got supposedly pro-life Republicans, pro-children, voting against feeding the poor school children, poor kids. Not only that, but they vote against laws that lower the likelihood that a mass shooting will occur in a school, but end up voting for more money for themselves and their donors. Montana, looking to lower the tax rate on the richest households from 6.5% to 5.9%. That's already on top of what the Governor Gianforte, had given the same households back in 2021. And on top of the Trump tax cuts that have also disproportionately benefited the wealthiest Montanan families. Montana's wealthiest 1%, those earning more than $500,000 a year, would see $6,000 in annual tax breaks on average, while folks earning between $43,000 and $67,000 a year would see an average $70 in tax breaks. That's Montana. Let's go back to North Dakota. A new proposal backed by Governor Burgum would also give income tax breaks to people living outside of North Dakota at an estimated cost to the state of nearly $40 million a year. Remember, can't give $6 million to feed poor, hungry kids in school, but we can give a tax break to people that aren't even living in North Dakota that cost $40 million a year. And unsurprisingly, the Republican governor's plan would disproportionately benefit the most affluent non-residents who collect checks from North Dakota, according to a Forum News Service analysis. More details. Non-residents with annual incomes north of $491,000 would realize an estimated $44.3 million in tax relief over the next 2-year budget cycle. That means high earners living outside of the state would reap about 8% of the $566 million in total tax relief provided by the bill. So that's just people that are living out of the state of North Dakota. Over the last decade, the state has collected an average of more than $70 million a year in income taxes from non-resident earners. That revenue flows to the general fund, which primarily goes toward public education and social services. Gee, I wonder why Republicans wanted to cut that tax specifically. Look at where it goes to. Look, this is who Republicans are. This is what they do when they get into office. They're not there to help you. They're not even pro-life. They starve the children and then blame the parents and tell them to take personal responsibility. And while they're doing that, they and their donors continue to get fat.